Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
How are they looking?
How are they looking, your tabs?
My tabs are sexy.
Not the appropriate answer.
Oh. My tabs look healthy.
Mm-hmm. Better. Healthy, strong tabs. I've been working my tabs. I found it. It's like I found a new tab.
Does your trainer help you with?
He does. He helps me work my tabs. I took a little bit of a light workout this week because I had some soreness in my ankles. And as a result, we worked a lot of the tabs.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I see. I
we,
have a response to that.
Are we finished monkeying around here? Can we get serious?
There are no more monkeys here.
All right. What have you seen this week? Anything good?
Well,
Anything new?
Should we tell people who we are first? Since we so effectively
I love that.
Didn't do that last week.
It's as if we imagine people just naturally tuned to us, like on the radio. Oh, I'm going to stop at Kilo 105, and well, who are these guys? That just is not a thing that happens, right?
I don't think so.
All right, that's Andy Nelson over there, and he's charming, and he's a lot of fun to be with. He has great bone structure, interesting taste in clothes, and a lot of fun to be with. I'm Pete Wright, and I can be found often hanging around water coolers and the occasional violin store. And this is The Next Reel, and we talk about movies, and we spoil them horrifically. So in this case, if you haven't rushed out to see tonight's film, the 1934 It Happened One Night from Frank Capra, you should rush out and do that at your nearest Cineplex, and then come back and listen to this show.
Consider yourself warned.
Public. We'll show them.
That's right.
Let's
spoil
see.
this
We're gonna
sucker.
Spoil this 1934 film. You can find us at thenextreel.com. That's always a good website to put in your handy bookmarks bar. And at facebook.com, you can find us facebook.com/thenextreel. And that's another good place to join the conversation. So, what I miss?
And always.
Anything good?
No.
I don't think so. We're gonna go right away. Now we're just gonna jump into it.
Jump.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with trailers, shall we? Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? You go
I'll
first.
go first.
You need to go first.
Yeah, mine is light and fluffy.
Fairly epic.
It is. It could be. It's hard to say.
It's sort of. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. My trailer this week is Muppets Most Wanted. It's the new sequel to the latest round of Muppet movies. I get confused if it's like, okay, this is the, I don't know, 5th or 6th Muppet movie. It's not really a sequel anymore. It's just another in the line of them, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right.
Right. It's just in the Muppet family.
It's not even. It's like Bond.
Yeah. It's just another.
Yeah.
But this one oddly
really
feels
torn.
like it oddly feels kind of like a remake, or at least a spiritual remake of The Great Muppet Caper, which was the second Muppet film. Because in this film, the quote on the website is, "The Muppets find themselves unwittingly entangled in an international crime caper in Muppets Most Wanted."
Yes.
Which is essentially what happened in The Great Muppet Caper, at least to my
international crime
recollection.
caper. Yeah.
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 Charles Grodin stealing the jewel, falling in love with Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Herman had to save the day.
Here's the thing. Where is what's his name from the Jason? What's his name?
Jason. Blah, blah, blah,
The
blah,
last one.
Yeah, Jason. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. Jason. Yeah.
Supposed to have it faster than that, Andy. Now
It's
it's
that
awkward.
one guy.
No,
Jason
here's
Segel.
Jason
Segel.
Segel. I find Jason Segel charming and funny and the perfect actor for a Muppet film. I'm not sure that Ricky Gervais has the same what's the word? Charm.
Je ne sais quoi.
Tina Fey plays the Russian. Ray Liotta is in it.
It's a list like any Muppet film. It's
Danny Trejo is Machete.
Tom Hiddleston plays Great Escapo.
Christoph Waltz is in it.
I know. You've got Ty Burrell, Frank Langella.
But it looks like from the trailer, it looks like we've got a lot of Ty Burrell and a lot of Ricky Gervais. And a lot
That
of
is what it looks like.
That's
yes.
sort of the core human cast. In addition,
Although in the trailer, it doesn't really get into anything having to do with the jewel heist caper headed by a Kermit lookalike and his dastardly sidekick.
No, it gets into none of that. That's true.
It gets into none of that. It's just shenanigans. It's Muppet shenanigans is what we see in the trailer.
There's a lot of like light stands falling. That's a big thing.
And a lot of moves like Jagger.
It's a trope. Yes, there's a lot of moves like that. And penguins. Of course.
And penguins, yes.
It is. It is. You know what? I hope actually what comes out of this are more brilliant teaser trailers. Because if you remember last time, they did this great series of like remakes of great movies with Muppets. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was fantastic. It was a great series.
Was it trailers or was it the posters? I remember a lot of posters. Maybe I'm not remembering the trailers.
Well, I'll have to look that up and make sure I'm not completely making that up. There's a chance I'm making that up, but I don't think it's a very good one.
I think it is a good chance.
No. Well, on that we disagree. So
how would you like that job? Getting paid to do the Muppet trailer remakes of big movies.
I would want that job in a heartbeat. You say that like that'd be a chore. Are you kidding?
I might want that job more than actually making the movie itself.
Yes, that's true. What would your number one movie be?
Well, it always has to be recent, like ultra recent films.
Yeah, Oblivion.
You know, well, I was thinking like Iron Man 3.
Oh yeah,
After Earth.
We're the Millers. A stripper Muppet. Runaway Muppet.
How about Ega?
Lovelace.
Oh my.
Yeah.
We're already derailing.
Yeah, this is good. In a world. Oh, totally. Oh my gosh. That's coming. It's got to be coming soon.
It is coming. It is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
So that's my trailer.
That's good.
You know, I'm looking forward to it about as much as I look forward to any Muppet movie, which is on a fairly middling ground level. I always am looking forward to seeing it and hoping I enjoy it, and I always kind of leave going, okay, that was kind of fun.
Yeah, right. No, that's right.
Yeah, so I hope this one is kind of fun.
No, me too.
Maybe a little better.
Me too.
This one opens March 21st next year.
Yeah, no, that's good. March 21st. I wonder if I'll be busy.
Little ways away.
I wonder if I'll be busy that day. Other breaking news today. Did you hear this in your favorite genre of geriatric action movies?
I don't know.
You haven't heard the latest Harrison Ford news? This shows that he's crossed over, this news. That Harrison Ford has crossed over.
He's making Amour 2.
No. He's replaced Bruce Willis in your favorite, The Expendables 3. What?
Wow.
Yeah, and Sly Stallone himself tweeted that news that Harrison Ford is in.
Wow. He really is. He really has crossed that line, hasn't he?
Okay, my trailer is not anything related to Harrison Ford. My trailer is the new Rennie Harlan film.
But it is related to Bruce Willis.
It is.
See, you kind of you missed an opportunity for a good through line there. Yeah.
It is related to Bruce Willis and the Die Hard, right? And Sly Stallone.
Die Hard 2.
And Sly Stallone with Cliffhanger. Please.
You totally missed that one.
You are a wicked web weaver, my friend. And so he's got this new movie. It's called Devil's Pass. And it's coming out February 28th, 2013 in Russia. Who knows when it's coming out here? I don't know when we'll get it. And it's
looks like August 23rd limited.
Oh, good. Well,
so there
you're on the case. 5 young filmmakers retrace the steps of a doomed group of hikers in pursuit of an unsolvable mystery. And I'm really torn on this movie because when I saw that when the trailer starts, it's an avalanche story. I love me some apocalyptic kind of doom and gloom films. You give me a skyscraper on fire, people trying to escape. You give me a sinking cruise ship. You give me any of those kinds of things, I'm pretty excited. And so when I see an avalanche natural disaster movie, I would watch Volcano. I would do that. I would watch Volcano again.
Wow.
Because I'm into the La Brea tar pits, boiling over. Anyway, I'm big into those movies, and so I was excited that this was an avalanche movie in itself. Because I don't know, did you see the New York Times story that came out a while ago? They did this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful digital feature on this avalanche thing. And there was this great avalanche story and rescue and people. There were people who died and were trapped, and it was a true story. And I thought, well, now they're making a movie of that. I was very excited. Then it turns out it's like a creature thing,
Yeah, it was
That was a
little
surprise.
different.
Yeah. It's and
it goes into the descent. It's what it all of a
it's
sudden turns
exactly
into.
what it turns into. That's what it looks like. So it's an avalanche film crossed with the descent. And I don't know if I should be more excited about this or less. Rennie Harlin, I'm hot and cold with Rennie Harlin stuff. But
Well, just the fact that they have to put on the poster, director of Die Hard 2 and Cliffhanger,
yeah,
to let you know who this is, being his films that he made in 1990 and 1993.
Right. What? No word about The Long Kiss Goodnight?
Oh, hey, I liked The Long Kiss Goodnight.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it so.
But they're not saying
but Deep Blue Sea.
5 Days of War.
No.
12 Rounds. Cleaner.
Not even Mindhunters. Don't forget Mindhunters.
Old Benny.
Val Kilmer. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We know how much we love Val. So anyway, that's my trailer. I'm marginally excited about it because it does have avalanches and the descent. So
well, and I will say about it, because I saw the trailer and I'm like, that's interesting. The Dyatlov Pass incident, which I had never heard of, it was an actual avalanche incident in the Ural Mountains where these 9 ski hikers actually did die, and there is a lot of mystery about the circumstances. They have theories about things, paranormal activity, secret weapon tests, avalanche damage, all these different circumstances of things that, as far as the evidence that they ended up finding, that led people down lots of different roads as far as what actually happened. So
yes. Yeah, that's true.
I don't think they ended up being devoured by underground humanoid creatures, but you never know.
I will say that the character of Alia, I bet she makes it, because she's listed here as played by 2 actresses, once as Alia at 20 years old and once as Alia at 73 years old. So
I bet it's not the actress or the character named Holly King, because we have Holly King, and then there's another actress playing Holly Creature. Which makes me think maybe Holly doesn't stay.
Holly
as
doesn't
Holly King
make
very
it.
long.
That's
Spoiler
horrible.
alert. Thank you for reading the credits.
Oh my gosh, I thought I was totally on the ball with that one, but I missed Holly Creature. That's fantastic. Ironically, Holly King is actually played by Holly Goss. They couldn't with the names. They had to stick with Holly.
I know.
All right. So that's the Devil's Pass. You should go see it. Looks exciting. You can catch it at.
Creepy.
You can, and it's funny, isn't it funny that I'm the one who points this out? That this is a movie. I don't usually do the horror movies.
I know. There's like a little change up going on over here.
A little bit.
Whoa.
Let's see. Before we talk about this movie we're going to talk about tonight, do we have any other updates that we need to fill people in on? Do we have any other? We wanted. I think we missed something last week. Weren't we supposed to say something? I don't remember. Well, if you know what really helped people. Let me tell you. I remember what it is. If you head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show, as long as you're there, drop us a couple of nice words on the review page there. That really helps other people discover the show. And we've gotten such nice comments. And we totally missed one from Sir Mike 214. You know what? He's very simple. He's straightforward. He gives us 5 stars. We love those 5 stars. And he says, I look forward to this podcast every week. It's entertaining and educational. I wonder which is which.
You mean me and you?
Mm-hmm. I said it.
You went there.
I'm not afeared. And so we sure appreciate that. Thank you so much, Sir Mike. And anybody else who has time and inclination to jump over there, we sure appreciate it.
Definitely we do.
All right. Shall we talk about this movie?
Let's do it.
We're actually continuing and ending our long-running series on couples on the run.
4 episodes.
Right.
Actually,
couples on the run movies.
Tonight's the 5th.
This is the 5th. This is a 5th episode. We started with. Do you even remember what our movies were so far that we've done?
Midnight Run.
Mm-hmm.
True Romance.
Comedy. Horrific violence.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Western.
Night of the Hunter.
Horrible Preachers.
And It Happened One Night.
It's like a pre-Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan kind of a thing. That's what I kept seeing in this film. Don't you think?
That's an interesting look at it. I hadn't thought about that. But
it was Sleepless in Seattle in 1934.
with a very rich, possessive father.
Well, I'm not saying there weren't boundary issues. I mean, there were family problems, but there were, it
all worked out in the end. It does.
It sure does.
Well,
it
helps that this is, by many people, considered the father of the screwball comedy.
Yes.
I think that may be why it has that Tom Hanksy, Meg Ryan-y comedy. Something funny.
It's sort of. I think that a new.
I'll give anyone who could tell me what movie I'm referencing 10 points if they can. If they let us know.
10 next reel points.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's worth something.
Facebook. Head over to facebook.com/thenextreel. And if you can pull apart Andy's really spot on improv there.
I need something, funny.
That's good. No, do that a couple more times throughout the show. Just drop it in there. This is not only is it the father of the screwball romantic comedy, it is the father of other things as well. It's the father of, in fact, it is the father of films that win all 5 major Academy Awards. How about that?
Yes, it is that.
It won for Best Actor, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Screenwriter, and Best Film in 1934, the 7th Academy Awards. That's great. And when it was that, and the next time that was created, or the next time that was hit, was
1975.
1975. One Flew Over the Cooper's Nest.
Capra's Nest.
I've never seen that movie, so.
Oh my goodness!
No, that's not true.
Goodness.
That's not true. That's a lie. That was a joke. Please.
So it took 41 years for it to happen again. And then it's only happened one other time since then.
That's right.
Which was?
For 10 more points, I'm going to go with Silence of the Lambs.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's right.
I did no research. I just totally pulled that right.
I'm sure you did.
Jonathan Demme, Anthony Hopkins, Jodie Foster, and Ted Talley. So 3 times we got the big 5, and this movie started it. And do you think, Andy, in hindsight, you put yourself in that 1934 audience, you're in your spats and your top hat, you've got your monocle on, and you head off to the theater, to the Oscar presentation, and they say, it happened one night, boom, 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 wins all the awards. Do you say to yourself, meh, that was a good selection? Or, meh, they were robbed, eh?
Well, let's see. The top grossing films of 1934 are Viva Villa, starring Wallace Beery, Cleopatra, also starring Claudette Colbert, The Barretts of Wimpole Street, starring Norma Shearer, The Thin Man with William Powell and Myrna Loy, The Richest Girl in the World, starring Miriam Hopkins, The Gay Divorcee, starring Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, Imitation of Life, starring also Claudette Colbert, had a very busy year, The Girl from Missouri with Jean Harlow, and The House of Rothschild, starring George Arliss and Loretta Young, none of which I have seen. So I am not the person to ask if this was the movie to win.
All right, that's fair. I've seen Cleopatra. And I've seen The Thin Man.
Okay.
And I want to say I've seen The Gay Divorcee, but I think that was like a Turner Movie Classics kind of weekend thing, and I was probably, not paying much attention to it.
Sure.
But that's it from the 1934 ranks for me. And I think this probably stands up.
Yeah.
What I find ironic about this whole thing, and it's like many of these of the great hit films, is that neither Clark Gable nor Claudette Colbert thought they were doing anything particularly striking when they did this film.
Right.
In fact, Claudette Colbert actually said, "I think I was just in the worst movie ever made."
Right. Well, yeah, the worst movie I'd ever starred in.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and then
showed you, Colbert.
Well, and she had actually done another film with Frank Capra, which was his first film, and what was it called? I'll find it here in a sec. It did really poorly. She really felt like, that was a terrible experience. I'm never going to work with him again. She only ended up agreeing to do this film. It was called For the Love of Mike, came out in 1927. She only agreed to do this film because the head of Columbia Pictures, Harry Cohn, agreed to double her salary. And at the time, her salary was $25,000. She wanted $50,000. And she was about to go on a vacation. She had 4 weeks off for vacation. And he said that he could get it done in 4 weeks. And so she agreed to do it. And it sounds like she kind of had a miserable time making this film. And then even when the Oscars came around, she wasn't even there. She was about to leave on another vacation. I guess she was taking a lot of trips. She was at the train station, and it announced that she won. Somebody ran over to the train station, got her, and brought her back. She went up on stage and said, "Thank you," and started leaving. And then she came back and said, "And I have to thank Frank Capra for this." So she came around. It took a while.
Yeah, it took a while.
It took winning an Oscar.
Yeah. Meh. Helps. It just you get the feel as you read about the production of this film that everybody was just sort of taking it easy. Mm-hmm. That it was a screwball, and you sort of get the impression that it's, or at least I get the impression that it is because, as you say, as the father of the screwball kind of romantic comedy, that nobody quite understood what they were making.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, coming so hot on the heels of some of the screwiest, balliest silent films as this film was.
It's one of those things. I think Capra himself, I don't think was expecting much out of this film. He thought it would be a fun little film to make. I don't think he was really thinking it was going to be anything big. Just another light little fluffy film that was going to be out there. Mm-hmm. Clark Gable... there's a couple stories as to why he ended up on the project. The main prevalent story seems to be that he had been working over at, where was he, MGM, I think.
Yeah.
And he had kind of pissed the head of MGM off. And so they sent him over to Columbia to make this little nothing film, because Columbia at the time was considered the germ of the ocean. Everyone kind of considered it kind of the last stop as far as film studios went, because they had never won any awards. It was just kind of a very startup company, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's come out, since then that wasn't quite the case. That Gable, his rate, they were making more on selling Gable out to this other company to make this movie than they would have made with him sitting around, because this was the days when basically a studio kind of controlled an actor and had a big contract for years and put them in whatever movies they wanted, and they just got paid a weekly salary. They were making money on him, so it didn't hurt them at all to have him off working over at Columbia. Anyway, up to that point, Gable had really only been making more serious films or crime films, nothing that really fit this mold. And so Capra apparently saw something in him that he thought could work, kind of this comedy, and he played it up really well. But, from what I had read, he started coming to the set. Initially, he was kind of drunk because he was just, one of those tough guys who, just that's how he was, kind of a Robert Mitchum sort of guy. And Frank Capra had to kind of straighten him out, and it took him a little time to kind of get into Capra's vibe. But Capra was just like, look, we're all making this movie. Let's make it the best we can. And it just wasn't the thing that Gable was used to making. And so I think for him, he never saw it as the sort of film that was kind of, I guess at the time, more serious Oscar fare. And I think he just went into it just kind of with a devil may care attitude and really had a great time making it. And you can tell, I think, watching Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert, they both are just having a lot of fun playing their roles and making this film. And the way that they have that kind of witty repartee that has become so well known in the screwball films, I think is one of the things that makes the film stand out.
I absolutely agree with that. There is a real infectious charm to their relationship on screen that you can really feel like you're a part of their journey together. And we haven't talked at all about the film, and I wonder, I imagine this is not a film that a lot of contemporary listeners may have seen. Should we walk through a little bit of the the plot, as such as it is?
Sure.
And first we should say it was based on a short story,
right?
And it was. That short story was, let's see, Night Bus, 1933 short story, Night Bus by Samuel Hopkins Adams.
Right.
And so that is to say a lot of their journey takes place on a bus at night.
Yeah, a good chunk of it.
A piece of it.
A good chunk, yeah. And basically, Colbert plays Ellie, a spoiled heiress who's bored and frustrated with her father, who essentially controls her life and makes her do the things that he wants to do, and she wants to do things for herself. She's married to somebody, what's his name? King something.
King Wesley.
Yeah, King Wesley. And she's married him, on a whim, and her father is trying to annul the marriage. She doesn't want to. She flees her father, jumping off the boat that they have docked off of Florida, swims to shore, and basically goes on the run, hopping on a bus so she can take a bus all the way up to New York and be with her husband. She runs into Clark Gable, who plays Peter Warren, a newspaper reporter who's kind of a down-and-out newspaper reporter. Basically, we meet him as he's quitting his job in a very fun scene to watch, with a very interesting relationship between him and his editor that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. Mm-hmm. He hops on this bus, meets her, a lot of, arguments and interesting conversation between the two of them. Eventually he learns who she is, and he kind of sells this idea that he'll help her get to New York so she can be with her husband and not tell anybody who she is, as long as he gets the story, and he can sell the story of who she is and all this stuff, why and all that, to make some money off of it. And of course, as they go along, they kind of fall in love and all that good stuff. And yeah, I guess that's the long and the short of it.
Yeah, that's good.
Long and short.
So back to their relationship on screen, I think it is really charming and sort of addictive, as these best romantic relationships on screen should be. She is adorable and charming, and in particular, the sequence where they're trying to hitchhike, mm-hmm. As she, she says, I've seen a lot of the hiking. Where do we start the hitching?
Right.
And decides to stop on a fence. She does this, he does this whole bit. He's got a bit of how he hails a cab, or how he hails a car when he's hitchhiking, and he shows all the different thumbs that he uses, mm-hmm. thumb 1, thumb 2, and how he does it, and what kind of face you need to have when you're doing that, and when you're hitchhiking.
The follow through,
right? There's just this fantastic delivery of this long kind of monologue that he proceeds to demonstrate, and of course, not a single car will stop for his hitching. And eventually it becomes really absurd as he's trying to hitch car after car after car. There's apparently a parade in town of some sort, and there's just all these cars that are going by, and all we have is this medium shot on his face, and or on him with her in the background. And she is lying on her side on top of this fence in what I have to imagine is a precarious and not comfortable position. at all, and yet she's trying to sell it as, and I think she does. She sells it as this girlish kind of flirtatious pose, and she proceeds to say, I'm going to do this my way. It's my own standard, and she goes and shows her leg all the way up to the high thigh,
right?
And a car stops. And word is she didn't want to do that,
right?
And they actually hired a leg double. And when she saw the leg, she said, "No, I'm going to show my leg. That's not my leg." Fantastic. I love social progress.
Yes, it's great.
And so it ends up being this wonderfully charming moment with Gable sitting in the background, just being fantastically manly in his wonderful suit, arm up on the fence, and making his case. So it was great. It was. It's a great little scene. I think it really illustrates their that sort of turning point in their relationship, where they become flirtatious with one another, where they sort of fall in love. And
absolutely.
And the rest of the film is a Romeo and Juliet story. He's the he's the well, it's sort of, except for the swords or words at the end.
That's right.
There's no sword play, and no one dies.
And
they end up running off to each other, right?
That's right. And there's an auto gyro.
That's a fantastic special effect. Practical effect, too.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
So I love their relationship. I love how they approach one another on stage, and I think that's one of the things that makes the movie, even as weirdly, kind of comically goofy as it is, and dated, obviously, 1934. It doesn't necessarily hold up, particularly social conventions. Things like he says, he's having this conversation with her father, and says what she needs is a husband who isn't afraid to suck her once a day.
Soccer once a day, whether she needs it or not.
Whether she needs it or not. That's That's.
And her father is smiling. He agrees.
He totally agrees and says, "But do you love her?" "Yes, I do." It's things change.
Yes.
And so there's some very dated kind of social conventions in the film, but otherwise the language is tight and funny, and the performances are, as just as vaudevillian as you want them in a film like this, and very approachable.
Well, and the dialogue comes. Robert Riskin wrote the screenplay, and I believe he did quite a bit of work with Frank Capra. I think he, from 33, Lady for a Day, this, Mr. D's Go to Town, It Goes to Town, You Can't Take It With You, Here Comes the Groom, It Happened One Night, let's see, Meet John Doe. Yeah, he did a lot of Capra stuff, and is a solid writer that really, I think, connected well and knew what Frank Capra wanted. Frank Capra always enjoyed the fast pace, and it's said that he would screen something, or when he would watch it in the editing room and he'd get it fast enough at what he thought, then he'd watch it on a big screen. It always felt too slow, so he'd speed it up a little bit, because there's a difference between watching it on a little screen and then watching it on the big screen. He always felt it slowed it down. So he would have his actors just deliver lines faster than they were used to, because he really wanted to make sure he kept this fast pace. And I think that's what lent a lot to that screwball comedy feel. That's definitely something that happens a lot in screwball comedies, is just that fast banter back and forth. I think that these two performers both really caught on to that and do a great job with it. You see the scene when the detectives come the first morning when they've spent the night in this little cabin, when the bus pulls over and they spend the night. Colbert and Gable spend the night in this cabin, wake up the next morning, and there's detectives there, and they have to put on this act about how they're this married couple, and he just musses her hair, which is enough to fool these detectives, which I just thought was great, because they would never suspect her as somebody who had such mussed hair. I just thought that was hilarious. But this whole little act that they put on, they both totally get into this whole bit about this argument that they have and how he was drunk at this dance. And it just goes on. And they both just are playing off of each other so well. It's all so fast. It comes at such a great pace. And then the detectives leave and they have such a great laugh over it. But you just get the sense that style is really how this film is structured and needs to be structured in order to function in the genre that it's in. And I think these two actors really connected with that and with each other and made it work.
Well, I think so, and I think this is one of the conceits of the genre. If it's so slow you can stop and think about it, then it's not funny.
Absolutely.
And this film, in that regard, washes over you. I think that example as well when they're talking in that in the boarding house, and she's and they have the blanket up on the rope. Which is another
Walls of Jericho.
Yeah, right. There's this sense when they speak to one another there and on the bus that there is no way that two people, when talking to one another and trying to adjust to each other's social cues, could ever talk that fast.
Right.
And yet, that's what makes their relationship so wonderful to just be a part of. It's a roller coaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's those two. What other characters strike you as strengths in this film?
Frank Capra, kind of like Preston Sturges, who we've talked about before, really directs and has a lot of really just great supporting characters in his film that make the film so much fun to watch. I think that a lot of the supporting characters all through this, whether it's Walter Conley playing Ellie's father, or Roscoe Carnes playing Shapely, the guy flirting with her on the bus, or even Jameson Thomas as Wesley, Alan Hales in it. All these great people they're so much fun to watch, and I love that he cast them so interestingly, and the way that they are played in the script is so interesting. Her father, Mr. Andrews, is written in such a way where at the beginning of the film, you don't like him very much. You think he's kind of this controlling guy who has this freakish obsession with finding his grown daughter, to the point where he's got detectives combing the countryside for her. And she's just run away because she's a married woman and she's going to her husband.
Right.
So it's a little controlling. But then by the end of the film, you totally are on his side. And it's just such an interesting shift in that character that I really enjoyed. And I enjoy that, how he plays with that. The scene with Roscoe Carnes as Shapely when Gable's character, Peter Warren, confronts him away from the bus as if he's in the mafia and they're kidnapping her, and that whole scene plays so well. And his Shapely's change from the time, really from when he's flirting with her to all of a sudden now he's thinking that this is her husband, to thinking, oh, I'm in on this big score, I'm going to make $10,000 for turning her in, right, to all of a sudden, oh, this guy is kidnapping her and he's got machine guns in the undercarriage of the bus.
For the mob.
Just his character is so much fun to watch. I have such a great time with him.
It is really fun, and I love the I don't know, I don't know if this is a 1930s film trope, but there is a sense that people don't have a lot of love for their cars. They steal cars left and right to get to the next part of their journey, and in one case they are picked up after the hitchhiking bit. She shows her leg, and they're picked up by the road guy, the road thief.
Right.
And the road thief is apparently a guy who waits till they stop and at a rest stop, and passengers get out, and then he runs back to the car and takes off and steals their stuff.
And sings a lot along the way, as if he's forcing them out of the car or something.
Exactly. That's actually a nice touch. And so this happens, and Gable, because of his superhuman speed, is able to chase down this car and returns with it, saying that he gave the guy a bloody nose or black eye for it,
and tied him to a tree,
and stole his car. So, and so this happens. It seems to happen. okay, so the last one, they're staying at this boarding house, and Gable, in the middle of the night, takes the owner's car and drives it into New York to meet with his editor, played by the great Charles Wilson. And he, in the middle of the night, the couple discovers that he's gone, and they go in and say, "Oh, he took our car. Oh well, you better leave."
Oh, I thought he took the car that he had already taken from the road thief.
Oh, I thought he took the car from the owners, the people who said he took the car, because they were upset that he took that car.
I thought they were just mostly upset that he absconded in the middle of the night without paying.
Oh, I didn't see that connection. I didn't catch that. Okay. So maybe that's the case. Yeah, either way, it was a stolen car. Okay,
Still stolen,
so the stolen car stands. In any case, they have a very sort of lax relationship with their automobiles in 1934.
Yes.
Apparently, they're quite easy to come by.
Yeah, apparently, who'da thunk?
Who'da thunk? We got to talk about Charles Wilson a little bit. Can we talk just briefly about him? First of all,
Let's talk about him. Yeah, go ahead.
Did you look at his filmography? You look at how many movies he's been in?
He's been in. You say it. It's a lot.
I think this may be the record of actors we've talked about.
Not the ones in Tollywood.
Maybe that's where he bolstered his filmography here. He's been in 253 titles from 1928 to 1948, and there were, a lot of them were bit parts, small parts, but this list is long and distinguished, and he plays the editor, and he's great. He is the quintessential kind of tough boss. Mm-hmm. They have you wanted to mention their initial relationship, the firing.
Yeah, it's just such, again, this is another character like her father that you're on his Peter's side at the beginning, because his boss, he's yelling at his boss, and it's Clark Gable, so of course we're on his side, and he's quitting his job because his boss doesn't understand him and all this stuff, and they have this big fight over the phone, and then Peter leaves because he's just better than that, and his boss, who he keeps sending these telegraphs by what is it? I'm totally blanking on the term, where he makes his boss pay for them.
Right, collect.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's the word. One of those really complicated words like collect. He keeps sending these telegraphs collect to his boss throughout the course of the film, and his boss is just such a hot-headed guy. But then when Peter finally comes in and talks to his boss and sells him on this story, all of a sudden it's this other great transformation where you see that Peter and his boss have this great relationship. And sure, they have these times where they're in these all fists out brawls, basically. But in the end, they are still friends, and Peter is still a great reporter, and Gordon is going to keep using him. And I loved that relationship, and I loved how at the end Gordon, he comes out and he's just like, "Hey, come back to me when you're sober."
Yeah, sober up and come talk to me. I thought that was really interesting. Another one of those sort of cultural collisions where, when I wonder how many times we hear that in businesses across the country today.
Yeah.
Come talk to me when you sober up. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant relationship. It's one of those relationships. You think, gosh, I would love to have been a reporter in 1934.
That's right.
I want a boss like that.
That's right.
253 films.
Yeah, and did you see he was in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
Yes. Yeah. There you go. It's a good one.
He's a busy guy.
Busy guy. Let's see. Do you want to talk about anybody else specifically?
Cast-wise, no. I think that that's the big ones for the cast.
Yep. Okay. The crew. We talked a little bit about the screenwriting.
Yep. Robert Riskin.
We've talked about Joseph Walker.
Yeah, Joseph Walker, the cinematographer.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about him?
He collaborated with Frank Capra on. I was waiting for you.
No, that was a handoff. I was tossing that to you. Do you want?
Good thing we're not on a. My brain is so fried. Oh my.
Yeah.
He collaborated with Frank Capra on 20 films.
Wow.
That's a lot of films together.
Yeah. So. He's
20. He's one of those cinematographers who has been around the block. He has 20 patents on various camera-related inventions that he devised, including the double exposure system, several zoom lenses, the Duomar lens for both motion picture and television cameras, the variable diffusion device, the facial makeup meter, lightweight camera blimps, and optical diffusion techniques.
Wow.
So he's an important guy in the world of cinematography.
Yeah, he sounds important. Do you want to talk a little bit about the importance of some of those discoveries, particularly the diffusion technology, the electrozoom lens that is I think is the forefather of stuff that's being used by Zeiss today?
I want you to talk about that.
No, you don't. So you don't have anything for that.
I don't have anything on any of that stuff.
Right,
I just think it's great.
All right. Yeah, we'll fix that in post.
Sounded super smart today.
It's because we're doing this on the wrong day. You've totally messed us up. I blame you. I blame you for that.
2 days ahead of all my research. That's why.
I know it hasn't settled in yet.
That's right. It really hasn't.
Okay, so that's Joseph. We like Joseph Walker. Let's talk then about what we see of Joseph Walker's work. Anything in this film that stands out as particularly interesting stylistically to you?
Well, I think it's important to note that this film, because of the nature of this 4-week schedule that they had to make, normally a film like this would probably have been shot in 6 to 8 weeks. This film had to be rushed into this 4-week schedule to fit Colbert's vacation schedule that she had. Because of that, they didn't really have time to build all the sets that they needed to make. So the vast majority of the film was shot on location. They did film some sets, like some of the little motels that they stayed in along the way, the house, even the bus, that was kind of a set. But most of the road stuff was actually shot out on the road. And, we've talked about this with some of these older films before, where when you're shooting on location back in the day, these cameras that they were using were not these little handheld devices that people use today. These were massive, big cameras. And so it was a lot of work to go on location and to film a location film. It really wasn't done a whole lot. And so it was kind of a big thing for Columbia to go and do this when Columbia being this little tiny studio that didn't meet up to the big boys back in 1934. And so I think that he managed to capture a lot of great stuff with the technology that he had on location. I mean, he really did a great job. And some of the shots are really beautiful. You've got these stunning shots of Colbert that just absolutely make you fall in love with her. I mean, she's just gorgeous to look at. The night scenes, lighting at night, and all the stuff that they had to shoot at night, I think he captures it in ways that fit really well within the genre of a romantic comedy. You've got kind of that romantic soft light that comes through at night, and it really enhances the mood, but it doesn't detract from it or make it ever enter into like a noirish territory or anything like that. I think he does just a bang up job with the time he had to make a film that needed to look how it appropriate for its genre.
Yeah, I think you're right. Particularly the beauty shots, I think are gorgeous, both for Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. I think they make these actors really divine in this film, and that's one of the things that I walked away with was the sense that these are, as goofy as the film is, these are movie stars
Yeah,
and we're
absolutely.
going to demonstrate that by just how beautiful we're capturing them on screen. And we're not going to let the sense and sensibility of the film get in the way of the fact that these are movie stars.
Right.
I thought that was a really nice touch.
And I didn't look into it, but it does look like they used some sort of Vaseline on the lens type of thing when they would have Colbert's close-ups, because it really did have that beautiful, soft focus around her that just really made her glow.
Right. Yeah, that's the word. Glow and kind of greasy.
A little. Little.
Who else strikes you as interesting to talk about? Anybody else on your list?
Well, Harry Cohn, I think it's just important to mention, the head of Columbia Pictures, who did have a great relationship with Frank Capra. He brought Frank Capra over early on in his career. He kind of saw him as somebody who could make some great films. He, I think, at the time had been doing some of the Mack Sennett comedies, and he brought him over to make some of his films. And I think that Capra stayed there for a long time because it was just, he had this great relationship with Harry Cohn. Harry Cohn was one of the 3 founders of Columbia Pictures, which they founded back in, I believe it was around 1918 as, what was it called before it became Columbia Pictures? It was Cohn, Brandt, Cohn Film Sales. Back in 1918, released its first feature film in 1922, changed to Columbia Pictures in 1924. And it really struggled as this kind of low-end studio until this film came out and really shot it up there as a contender with the big boys, because it won 5 Oscars that year. And that really helped Columbia Pictures become this major studio that is still here today and now is a division of Sony Pictures Entertainment.
Interesting. It seems like this was one of the later films in Harry Cohn's catalog. I mean, he produced over 200 titles and only, let's see, 11 after this, after It Happened One Night.
That's crazy talk.
Right? I mean, he was a busy guy, but it's not as if he presided over a whole lot of and that's not true. I'm not actually reading this terribly closely, but this was the film that really stood out for Cohn and Columbia, and it happened late in his production career. I find that
well he was actually the head of the studio all the way into the late 50s. He actually was still he was the last Hollywood movie mogul of the studio system era. He had retained power after Daryl Zanuck had left, after Mayer had left, and
it looks like he stopped getting per film credit before It Happened One Night. He wasn't even credited on that as a producer.
Yeah, it was kind of like when Daryl Zanuck was the head of 20th Century Fox. His name wasn't always on the credits, but he was really still the man behind the studio who kind of approved things and made sure that people were doing what he wanted them to be doing.
Right. Okay, so we like Harry Cohn too.
We do fans. Yes. Right. And now I think we need to speak a little bit about Frank Capra.
Man, saving that one for the end, huh?
You bet.
All right. What do we love about Frank Capra?
Well, I find it interesting that Capra, is, I believe, one of the first directors, if not the first director, to have such a defined style that he essentially creates his own adjective. Or he doesn't, but, society ends
Others
up...
have,
adjective. Yeah. Yes, Capra-esque is a very, common phrase, just like Tarantino-esque has become kind of a common phrase in film circles describing a certain type of film. His films are very easy to pinpoint because they do have a certain vibe to them. They generally are kind of about a particular guy who's fighting the system, and it's a guy who really believes in things and believes in the way things should be, and you see that in It Happened One Night a little bit. You see that in It's a Wonderful Life, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's just this style in his films that is very very easy to pinpoint, and it's very feel good. And I think a lot of people nowadays kind of use it as a term when they're really kind of describing something that's probably more cheesy in kind of its maudlin sense. It's not something that is as enjoyable nowadays. Maybe people are a little more cynical. And I think that maybe Capra's style is not quite fitting with the modern zeitgeist.
Yeah, maybe. Well, finish your sentence. Finish what you were saying.
I find it interesting that he created this vibe, but it's what I was going to say is it's very interesting to me that this is a person who really ended up falling from that style and essentially kind of losing his place in the Hollywood system because of the style of directing that he had. It became here's a great film author, Richard Griffith, summarizing his theme. A messianic innocent pits himself against the forces of entrenched greed. His inexperience defeats him strategically, but his gallant integrity in the face of temptation calls for the goodwill of the little people, and through their combined protest, he triumphs. That's a great way to kind of define Capra's theme that he so often used. But in the 30s, this is post-Depression, it really worked with the people, and people loved his films, and that's probably his most popular decade. In the 40s, he still had some successes, but they ended up being outweighed by his failures, and by the time it was in the 50s, he only made 3 films the whole decade. None of them were very good, and he really, I can't remember what his last film was, but it was a remake of a previous film of his.
Pocket Full of Miracles?
Yeah, and it was made in 1961. It was the last film he made and generally considered a failure. I think it was a remake of Lady for a Day, the film he made right before this. And it was considered a big failure, and he never directed again. He's somebody who he was kind of a director for the time. He really worked well in the 30s, and then it just kind of fell off. And you don't hear people talk about his films from the 40s or 50s very much. It's really the films in the 30s that stand out as these Capra-esque films that define the meaning of what Capra-esque is.
Yeah, I think so. I like your... I like the way you put that he was a director for his time. He kind of has that same sense as like a John Hughes, Yeah. That there was this set of circumstances that had him in the right place at the right time, making the right films. But one of the things I noticed, and I haven't seen enough of Capra's movies. I've seen the big ones, but I haven't seen enough of them that to be able to make a sweeping statement. So if I start lying here, let me know. One of the things that I like so much about this film, It Happened One Night, is that the caper, the gag, exists at the expense of the sort of honesty in our lead character, right? I mean, there is no duplicitousness from Gable as he moves through, even though everyone thinks that he is duplicitous at the end of the film. Like, everybody thinks he was in it just for the money, and it turns out he was honest the whole way through. Right. It was, the misunderstanding was all through on. I think that's an interesting point for me, that Capra's choice here is to make all the characters on the up and up. They may not know all the information about one another. They may not all be equipped with the complete set of information to understand one another's motivations, but they are all honest to their own universe, and I really like that. That's what gives it that kind of feel good aesthete. You walk out not feeling like you were betrayed by watching anybody else get betrayed on screen.
Yeah, I agree.
No, good. Well, and scene. Shall we move on? Shall we flick chart this thing? Are we done? Do you have other points?
No, I do have other points.
All right, bring them. Let's rapid fire these things.
Okay, this I find really interesting. This film was very one of the very favorite films of none other than Fritz Freleng, one of the creators of Bugs Bunny, or the creator of Bugs Bunny.
Wait, I got another one.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
And can I just say it?
Yes.
Adolf Hitler.
And Adolf Hitler. That's right.
It always makes me funny to think he was like a guy that liked movies.
Yeah.
I know, and then he liked movies a lot.
He did. Yeah. So Fritz Freleng liked this so much that there were, according to his unpublished memoirs, there were at least 3 things in this film upon which the Bugs Bunny character was based. One was the character Oscar Shapeley, his personality in the film, the way that he is always calling Peter Doc when he's talking. So that was one thing that kind of informed Bugs Bunny. The second, the way that Peter is eating the carrots and talking quickly when they're sitting on the fence. The way
we didn't even talk about the carrot scene.
The carrots, yeah. Oh, another great scene. And then third is when Peter is talking to Shapeley about, he's come up with this whole mob story about how they're kidnapping her. He tells this story about, haven't you ever heard of the guy Bugs Dooley and how, the horrible things that happened to him when he squealed and all this stuff. So those 3 things are the things that supposedly informed the character Bugs Bunny. So pretty interesting. Also, in his world of Looney Tunes characters, supposedly Alexander Andrews, her father, was the inspiration for Yosemite Sam, and King Wesley was the inspiration for Pepe Le Pew.
Oh, totally. It was.
It's very funny to think about that.
That is great.
When you're watching this movie.
And as a result, Adolf Hitler's probably a great fan of Looney Tunes.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear he quoted Pepe Le Pew.
Often.
Quite a bit. Last little bit. This is the famous film where Clark Gable, he couldn't remove his undershirt fast enough when he was doing the scene where he's taking off his clothes. And so he gave up on the undershirt and undressed without the undershirt. And it became so uncool to wear an undershirt after people saw this film that there was a huge drop in undershirt sales around the country. And legend has it that some of the underwear manufacturers actually sued Columbia because of the loss of finances from sales of undershirts.
Wow. Who knew?
This is the film. That's right. That's why I don't wear undershirts, because
to this day. Never. My mother wouldn't even allow me to look at an undershirt when I was a boy. She said, if that Gable doesn't do it, it won't happen for my boy.
Oh.
See, I am a man out of time.
We're born to be in a screwball comedy.
If you want to find us and find a list of our now top 100 films, where would we go, Andrew?
Flickchart.com/The Next
Reel. That's the truth. We would go to flickchart.com/The Next Reel, and you would find that list of all of the films that we've done on this show and see what our number 1 film is, which is it going to be It Happened One Night? We'll see shortly when we rank this puppy against the other films we've done. Right now, up for grabs, the title is held by Network.
Absolutely.
Fantastic film. I don't know. I don't know if I see it. Go for it. Let's do it.
Either.
This is going to be a hard one because this is a light film, right? I don't know how often I want to just throw this in. That's what I'm saying up front. I'm worried about this film, about the chances of this film.
I'm not worried about it landing where it should, though.
Okay. All right.
We'll see. All right. It Happened One Night or Inside Man?
Inside Man.
Interesting. Even with the problems, huh?
The problems of Inside Man?
Yeah. The Jodie Foster character, we had issues with that.
Well, of course we have. She was a nonsense character, but you get rid of that, and you still have Clive Owen in a wall.
Yeah, that's true. Clive Owen in a wall. And Denzel. I'll go with Inside.
Yeah.
I'll go with Inside Man. It Happened One Night or Clute?
Oh, I think we have to say Clute.
I don't know.
For honor.
I'm going to say It Happened One Night.
Okay. It Happened One Night.
Enjoy the relationship. Gable, Colbert, or Fonda and Sutherland. I'm going to go with Gable and
Okay.
Colbert.
Okay.
All
Fine.
right. I know. It Happened One Night or Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Well, it's Indy.
Yeah, even though the second, third, and fourth Indiana Jones films all have such goofiness to them, it is an Indiana Jones
It's an
film.
Indiana Jones film.
It's hard to pass. It Happened One Night or The Bourne Legacy. This is the fourth one.
Yeah. Oh.
I might go It Happened One Night. If it were one of the first three, I'd probably go Jason Bourne. But for this one, I think I would go It Happened.
But you're going to give up Jeremy Renner as Action Boy.
I am. I'd rather watch Jeremy Renner in The Hurt Locker.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay. It Happened One Night.
It Happened One Night or Alien 3. David Fincher's first film.
I'd put Alien 3 on in front of a lot of movies, as weird as that is.
That is weird.
That is weird. I've been known to. I like that David Fincher.
Well, and the director's cut of Alien 3, it's not the director's cut, but the extended cut does make it a much better film.
I know. I like that film more than
even though the
did.
effects are much more dated than any of the other films. I'll go Alien 3, although I feel a little guilty doing it.
Oh, no, you should. That's good.
I'm giving that one to you.
Right.
It Happened One Night or The Game.
The Game.
Yeah, I'm totally going The Game. Some people hate that film, but I think it's great.
I'm not friends with any of them.
I'm not either. It Happened One Night or The Professional or Léon. I'm going to go It Happened One Night on this one.
Yeah, I'll give that one to you in this case.
Oh, thank you. Number 69 out of 102.
All right. It cracked the top 100. We get to say that now.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. You know, one thing we forgot to do?
Tell me.
Just run through the numbers real quick.
Oh, let's do that.
1934, this film cost $325,000 to make. In today's dollars, that's about $5.5 million. So, a decent little budget. It ended up making, it did really well for itself. I found domestically it made about $2.5 million, which is adjusted about $42.8 million. So all told, the film had an adjusted, for today's dollars, profit per finished minute, $354,835 that it made per finished minute, right between Fight Club and The Natural.
Man.
Yeah, it did better than The Natural.
I love that list now that it's adjusted for inflation. That's a new thing.
The best thing about it is that Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is no longer number one.
Right.
That is the best thing about the list. Jaws has supplanted it as the number one film, making $15.6 million per finished minute.
Oh. Oh.
Yes, that's just
number
fantastic.
one with a bullet.
That's right.
I love that we did that. That's that you did that. Look at me taking credit.
Look at you.
That was great. Yeah. I love that.
So we'll get that up on our website.
Yeah, we gotta fix that. So in any case, that's where we stand this week. Let's that wraps up our Couples on the Run series. Did you learn anything? You feel like you observed anything fantastic and new in this series?
I have learned that cinematic couples love to go on the run. I think
put a couple on screen, they're going to be running from something.
We learned that there are many couples on the run films, and we certainly are going to continue talking about them in the future.
All right.
That's all I really learned from it.
That was not much.
It was pretty weak, wasn't it?
It was fairly weak sauce. All right. So what are we doing next week? Something deeper and apparently quite popular.
Apparently quite popular. We are going to be doing a series of the Coen brothers. This is one of our listeners gave us this recommendation quite a little while back, saying you should do a Coen brothers series. And we're finally getting around to it. We are going to be doing a series of them, but we're kind of focusing on more of their serious films. We're not jumping into any of their comedies. And at least, not direct comedies.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a nice little series of these. Oddly enough, as you said, it's popular over on the Tourcast. They've just started Coen Brothers series over there as well. So I guess it's just in the air. It's time for Coen. People know it.
Who was it that gave us the suggestion to do the Coens? Well, I feel like we need proper credit, and I forgot to look at it. Do you remember?
I think we're going to credit them next week when we introduce the series.
Okay. Well, we owe them credit. We've had this conversation, and I forgot her name right now. I'm scrolling for it right now. I'm in mid-scroll.
That's why we're going to mention it next week.
Nothing. All right. Well, we're very excited and to talk about the Coens, and I have been, I've been hot and cold on some of the Coens, as you know. But the Coens list that we have planned, I'm hot on.
I'm mostly hot on it.
You're not because of my choice.
One of my choices, I always kind of fluctuate too. So I'm a little backwards and forwards.
Well, should we say what movie we're starting with?
Well, let's just say the list. Why not?
All right, go for it.
So people can watch them all ahead of time.
All right, we should do that.
Yeah, we're going to cover Blood Simple. So start right at the beginning. Then we're going to jump to Miller's Crossing, hit Barton Fink, go to Fargo, and end with No Country for Old Men.
So which one are you hot and cold on of your pick?
Miller's Crossing.
Really?
Yeah. It's a film that I always think I really enjoy it, and then I watch and go, oh, okay, it's not quite what I remember. And then I leave it, and I'm like, okay, but there's those things element. So it's one that I get hot and cold on. Yeah. I usually am a little colder once I've watched it, and then as time goes by, I warm up to it again. So we'll see how it is this time.
My memory of all of those films, with the exception of No Country for Old Men and Barton Fink, is fairly old. The one I'm looking forward to most to watch again is Fargo. I have great memories of that, but I don't think I've seen it since I saw it in the theaters.
Wow.
Yeah, and the one that I like that you didn't even want to do in this series was Barton Fink. You were very gracious.
That's one that I've never liked. I've only seen it the one time when it came out, and I am actually curious to see it again. So I'm hoping I'll get more out of it this time now that I have a little more of a mature mind.
Is that what they're calling what you are?
I think it's old age is actually what they call it.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
This is actually, I guess technically, no, this is our second show since you've been an old man.
It depends on when I became old.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're done. Are we done?
And I'm spent.
I think we've used that one before.
I've used that one many times.
It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies.
And some stinkers.
Well, true. But producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
In Season 3, we covered even more great adaptations like The Night of the Hunter and It Happened One Night, both part of our Couples on the Run series.
We talked about No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers so rarely adapt someone else's work.
We had some fun rom-com adaptations like About a Boy, based on the Nick Hornby novel, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, adapted from Rachel Cohn and David Levithan's book.
In our terribly and naively named foreign language series, we discussed The Brilliant City of God and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which I won't ever be able to watch again, ever.
But could you read the original memoir?
I don't know, maybe?
We had our Richard Dysart series with adaptations like The Day of the Locust and Being There.
Plus, we had that fantastic interview with the man himself.
The one where we had him sit on the floor?
Because this chair was so squeaky. Good times.
We did our first Tom Hanks series with Forrest Gump, adapted from Winston Groom's novel, plus Apollo 13, based on Lost Moon by Jim Lovell.
And we did another year series looking at films from 1981, including Das Boot, Gallipoli, and Thief, all based on books.
Listeners can dive deeper into all of these original stories and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play,
movie,
video game. You bet. We have talked about some video game adaptations as well. It doesn't matter the source, just follow the link. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Check out the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and get reading, watching, performing, or playing today.